The salvage operation captain Marcus Kane had seen enough derelict ships in the outer rim to know when something was wrong. The massive alien vessel drifted silently through the asteroid field, its hull scarred by weapon fire and time. His salvage crew aboard the Horizon's Edge had been tracking the ghost ship for 3 days, but nothing had prepared them for what they found inside. An unexpected find. "Captain, you need to see this," called engineer Zoe Fletcher from the alien ship's lower decks. Her voice carried an edge of urgency that made Marcus abandon his survey of the bridge wreckage. He found her in what appeared to be a holding area, staring at a containment cell that hummed with faint energy. Inside the transparent barrier sat a figure that made Marcus's breath catch. The being was clearly humanoid, but distinctly alien, tall and graceful with pale blue skin that seemed to shimmer in the dim light. Long silver hair fell in elaborate braids around shoulders that spoke of nobility, yet heavy metal restraints bound her wrists and ankles. "First contact. Is she alive?" Marcus whispered, approaching the cell carefully. The alien's eyes snapped open at his voice, brilliant golden orbs that held intelligence and pain in equal measure. She studied him with the calculating gaze of someone who had learned to expect the worst from strangers. "Please," she said in accented but clear standard, her voice carrying the weight of exhaustion, "do not wake the others. They believe I am broken beyond repair." Marcus felt his heart clench. In 15 years of salvage work, he had never encountered a living prisoner aboard a derelict. The implications were staggering, but more than that, something in her dignified bearing, despite her circumstances, struck him deeply. "The rescue, Zoe. Can you override this containment field?" he asked, never taking his eyes off the alien woman. His engineer was already running her scanner over the control panel, her face grim with concentration. "It's biometric locked, but I can reroute the power coupling," she replied. "Give me 5 minutes." The alien woman watched their efforts with growing amazement. "You would free me? But you do not know what I am, what crimes they say I committed." Marcus met her golden gaze steadily. "I know you're a person asking for help. That's enough. Revelations begin as." The containment field flickered and died. The woman stumbled forward. Marcus caught her gently, surprised by how light she felt despite her tall frame. The restraints fell away with a soft click, and she rubbed her wrists where they had chafed. "I am called Lyra," she said formally, though her voice trembled slightly. "I have been prisoner aboard this vessel for... I have lost count of the cycles." "I'm Captain Marcus Kane," he replied, offering her his jacket as she shivered in the cold ship's air. "This is my engineer, Zoe. We're going to get you out of here." Lyra accepted the jacket with graceful dignity, but as she wrapped it around herself, tears began to flow down her pale blue cheeks. "You cannot know what you have done," she whispered. I was once more than this." The mystery deepens. Something in her tone made Marcus pause. There was a weight to her words that spoke of secrets far larger than a simple rescue operation. As they helped her toward their ship, he couldn't shake the feeling that saving Lyra would change everything, not just for his crew, but perhaps for humanity itself. "Tell me," he said gently as they walked, "what did they do to you?" Lyra's golden eyes met his, and in them he saw the shadow of something immense. "They tried to erase a princess," she said quietly. "But they could not erase what she knew about the coming war." Aboard the Horizon's Edge. The Horizon's Edge was a modest salvage vessel, built for efficiency rather than comfort, but Marcus had never been more grateful for its medical bay. Dr. James Wright worked quietly over Lyra, running scans that revealed the extent of her ordeal. Neural inhibitors, muscle suppressors, and worse, devices designed to break the spirit as much as the body. "Barbaric," Wright muttered, his weathered face grim. "Some of these implants have been active for years. How she maintained her sanity is beyond me." Lyra lay still on the examination table, but her golden eyes tracked every movement. My people are taught from birth to guard the mind above all else, she said softly. They could imprison my body, but my memories remained my own. The truth unveiled in the ship's small conference room. Marcus gathered his core crew. Besides Zoe and Dr. Wright, there was Communications Officer Ben Torres and Security Chief Rita Hayes. All of them watched Lyra with mixtures of curiosity and concern as she began her story. Was Princess Lyra of the Zalani Confluence, she began, her voice gaining strength. My people ruled a sector of space larger than your entire colonial region. We had technologies your scientists would consider miraculous, and wisdom accumulated over 10,000 years. Zoe leaned forward. Had? What happened? The fall of an empire. Lyra's expression darkened. We discovered something in the deep void between galaxies. An intelligence so ancient and malevolent that it made us reconsider everything we thought we knew about the universe. My father, the Emperor, wanted to study it. I argued for immediate action, for war if necessary. You were overruled, Marcus guessed. Worse, I was declared unstable, a warmonger who would destroy our peaceful civilization. They stripped me of my titles and handed me over to the Korthak Syndicate as a diplomatic gesture. Her voice turned bitter. The same syndicate that now serves as advanced scouts for the thing we should have destroyed. Human potential Ben Torres spoke up, his young face troubled. This intelligence, is it coming here? Lyra nodded grimly. It consumes civilizations, using their own technology and biology against them. It has already taken the Zalani worlds, the Phaedran Republic, and dozens of smaller systems. But there is something different about humans. She looked around the room, studying each face carefully. Your species is young, chaotic, unpredictable. Most galactic civilizations become stable and unified before achieving interstellar travel. But humans? You reached the stars while still divided, still fighting, still growing. That chaos may be your salvation. The warning Dr. Wright crossed his arms. What exactly are you asking of us? I'm not asking anything, Lyra replied. I'm warning you. The entity I speak of, my people called it the Void Sovereign, will reach human space within 2 of your years. When it arrives, it will do what it has done to every other species, study you, infiltrate you, and then consume you. Rita Hayes, ever practical, cut to the heart of the matter. What can we do about it? If it destroyed your advanced civilization, what hope do we have? The princess's plan. Lyra stood, moving to the small viewport that showed the stars wheeling past. The confluence had one advantage. We knew what was coming. But our knowledge made us cautious, predictable. The Void Sovereign was able to plan for our responses because we followed logical patterns. She turned back to them, and Marcus saw something fierce burning in her golden eyes. Humans don't follow patterns. You improvise, adapt, surprise even, yourselves. That unpredictability might be enough to disrupt its plans. You want us to fight this thing, Marcus said slowly. I want you to survive it, Lyra corrected. And if humanity survives, perhaps other species can be freed from its influence. The Void Sovereign's power grows with each conquest, but it also becomes more dependent on the absorbed civilizations if they could be severed from its control. A new alliance. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Finally, Zoe spoke up. What do you need from us? Lyra smiled for the first time since they had found her, and it transformed her face completely. Passage to Earth. Your leaders need to hear this warning. And perhaps... She hesitated, then continued with growing conviction. Perhaps they need to hear it from a princess who learned that sometimes the only way to save your people is to trust your enemies. Marcus felt the weight of decision settling on his shoulders. Taking Lyra to Earth would mean abandoning his salvage operation, possibly facing charges for interfering in alien affairs. But looking at her, at the hope and determination burning bright despite everything she had endured, he knew there was only one choice. Set course for Sol system, he told Ben. Maximum burn. Racing against time. The horizon's edge streaked through hyperspace toward Earth, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. In the 3 days since leaving the derelict ship, Marcus had watched his crew transform from simple salvagers into something approaching a military unit. The change was subtle but unmistakable. They moved with purpose now, driven by knowledge that the galaxy itself hung in the balance. Lyra spent most of her time in the ship's small library, working with Ben Torres to compile everything she knew about the Void Sovereign. Her fingers flew over the computer interface as she translated Zalani tactical data into human terms, her expression growing more troubled with each passing hour. Learning human ways. "Your species fascinates me," Lyra said during one of their planning sessions. She had recovered much of her strength, and the regal bearing that marked her royal heritage was becoming more pronounced. The confluence prized stability above all else. Our greatest achievement was creating a civilization that could endure for millennia without change. Dr. Wright looked up from his medical notes. "And that stability made you predictable?" "Exactly. When the Void Sovereign encountered us, it could model our responses with perfect accuracy. We would retreat to defensive positions, marshal our resources, strike only when victory was certain. The entity planned for all of this." Lyra's golden eyes gleamed with something approaching admiration. "But humans fight wars while their cities burn. You attack when you should retreat, retreat when you should surrender, and surrender when you should attack. It's magnificent madness." Earth approaches. Marcus stood on the bridge as Sol system grew larger on the view screen. Earth hung before them like a blue-white jewel. But he knew that beneath its peaceful appearance, humanity was already fracturing under the pressure of expansion. The colonial wars had ended only 5 years ago, leaving deep scars between the inner worlds and the outer colonies. "Captain," Ben called from his station, "I'm receiving hails from Earth Defense Command. They're demanding identification and boarding clearance." "Put them through," Marcus replied. This was the moment of truth. Would Earth's leaders listen to an alien princess's warning, or would paranoia and politics doom humanity before the real enemy arrived? First contact. Protocol Admiral Sarah Chen's face appeared on the main screen, her expression stern and uncompromising. Behind her, Marcus could see the gleaming corridors of Earth Defense Headquarters, a symbol of human military might that suddenly seemed fragile in light of what was coming. "Captain Kane," Admiral Chen said coldly, "you're operating a civilian salvage vessel in restricted space with an unregistered alien aboard. You have 60 seconds to explain yourself before we consider you a hostile contact." Marcus took a deep breath. "Admiral, I'm carrying Princess Lyra of the Zalani Confluence. She has intelligence about a threat that could destroy human civilization. We need to speak with the Defense Council immediately." The Admiral's expression didn't change, but Marcus caught a flicker of interest in her eyes. "Stand by for escort, Captain. Any hostile actions will result in immediate destruction." Political complexities, the Defense Council chamber was an imposing space designed to showcase human authority, but Marcus noticed how small it seemed with Lyra present. The alien princess stood at the center of the room with natural grace, seemingly unbothered by the dozens of military officers and politicians studying her with mixtures of suspicion and curiosity. "Honorable members of the Defense Council," Lyra began, her voice carrying easily through the chamber. "I bring warning of an enemy that has already destroyed civilizations far more advanced than your own. The Void Sovereign comes, and you have perhaps 2 years to prepare." Council Chairman Robert Hayes leaned forward. "And why should we trust the word of an alien whose very presence here violates our first contact protocols?" The princess speaks Lyra's Golden eyes flashed, and for a moment, Marcus saw the imperial authority she had been born to wield. Because I have nothing left to gain by lying to you. My people are gone, my empire is ash, and I am the last free member of a royal line that once commanded 1,000 star systems. I could have died in that prison cell, but I chose to live for one purpose, to warn the next species in the Sovereign's path. She activated a holographic display, showing the steady advance of the entity across the galaxy. It moves deliberately, consuming everything in its path. Your scouts in the Rigel sector have already encountered its advance forces, though they may not have recognized them for what they are. Admiral Chen stiffened. The Korthak incidents? The Korthak Syndicate now serves the Void Sovereign willingly. They were the first species to embrace subjugation rather than face destruction. They scout ahead, identifying targets and weaknesses. Lyra's voice carried bitter experience. They are the ones who captured me, who tried to break my mind for information about human capabilities. A princess's plea. The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs, but Lyra raised her hand for silence. I escaped that fate because Captain Kane and his crew chose to see a person in need rather than a potential threat. That choice, that uniquely human compassion combined with ruthless pragmatism, may be your greatest weapon against an enemy that views all life as merely resources to be consumed. She looked around the room, meeting the eyes of politicians and generals alike. I offer you everything I know about the Void Sovereign's methods, its weaknesses, and its plans. I offer you the remnants of Zalani technology that might give you an edge. But most importantly, I offer you an alliance. The last princess of a fallen empire standing with humanity against the darkness. The decision, the debate that followed lasted for hours, but Marcus could see the tide turning. Fear and pragmatism won out over suspicion and protocol. When the vote was finally called, it was unanimous. Humanity would prepare for war, guided by an alien princess who had lost everything except the will to fight. As the council dispersed, Lyra approached Marcus with something approaching gratitude in her golden eyes. "Thank you, Captain, for everything." Marcus nodded grimly. "Don't thank me yet, Princess. The hard part is just beginning. The War Council forms." 6 months after Lyra's warning reached Earth, the solar system had transformed into a fortress. Orbital shipyards worked around the clock, producing vessels designed with alien intelligence and human ingenuity. The Horizons. Edge had been retrofitted as a command ship, its salvage equipment replaced with advanced communications arrays and tactical systems based on Zalani technology. Marcus found himself appointed as Admiral Kane, a promotion that still felt surreal. His crew had been expanded with military specialists, but at its core remained the same people who had rescued a princess from a derelict ship. That shared experience had bonded them in ways that formal command structures could never match. Princess, an admiral in the war room aboard the orbital station Defiance, Lyra worked alongside Earth's best military minds to prepare humanity's defense. She had adapted remarkably to human customs while maintaining her alien dignity, becoming something unprecedented, a bridge between two species facing extinction. The Void Sovereign's primary tactic is infiltration, she explained to the assembled officers, her golden eyes reflecting the tactical displays. It studies a species extensively before making contact, identifying key individuals who can be corrupted or replaced. By the time most civilizations realize they're under attack, the enemy is already within their command structure. General Patricia Stone, Earth's most decorated veteran, leaned back in her chair. How do we counter something like that? By being unpredictable, Marcus replied, earning an approving nod from Lyra. The princess has taught us that the sovereign relies on pattern recognition. If we can avoid establishing patterns, we become harder to infiltrate, finished Dr. Wright, who had been promoted to head of xenobiology research. But that means abandoning traditional military doctrine, human innovation. The solution they developed was uniquely human: organized chaos. Instead of centralized command structures, Earth's defense forces were organized into semi-autonomous cells that could operate independently. Each cell was commanded by officers trained in what they termed adaptive improvisation, the art of making decisions that even they couldn't predict in advance. Zoe Fletcher, now Chief of Engineering for the entire defense fleet, had overseen the integration of Zelani technology with human systems. The result was ships that combined alien efficiency with human unpredictability, vessels that could reconfigure their systems in mid-battle, adapting to threats in real time. The final stand, the Sovereign arrives. The sensors detected them first, massive shapes moving through hyperspace like living shadows. The void. Sovereign's fleet was unlike anything in recorded history. Vessels that seemed to be grown rather than built, their surfaces writhing with organic technology that defied human understanding. At their center moved something that wasn't quite a ship and wasn't quite alive. The Sovereign itself. Admiral Marcus Kane stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's most advanced battle station, watching as his enemy finally revealed itself. Beside him, Princess Lyra maintained her composed exterior, but he could see the pain in her golden eyes as she recognized corrupted versions of her own people's technology. "It's beautiful," whispered Communications Officer Ben Torres, now a full commander. "Terrible, but beautiful." "That's how it works," Lyra replied softly. "The Sovereign doesn't destroy civilizations. It perfects them according to its vision. Those ships contain the essence of 100 conquered species, all working in perfect harmony under its control. The mind war begins. The first assault wasn't physical. It was psychological. Across the human fleet, crew members began reporting strange dreams, visions of a perfect galaxy where war and conflict had ended forever. Some ships went silent as their crews simply stopped fighting, overwhelmed by the promise of eternal peace. But humanity's chaotic nature proved its strength once again. While other species had succumbed uniformly to the Sovereign's mental influence, humans responded with maddening variety. Some crew members were affected, others remained completely immune, and still others seemed to draw strength from the entities. Attempts at control. "It's working too hard," Dr. James Wright reported from the medical bay, his voice excited despite the dire circumstances. "The Sovereign is used to converting entire populations at once, but human minds are too diverse. It's having to waste enormous amounts of energy on individual persuasion." The princess's gambit as the mental assault intensified, Lyra made a decision that terrified and inspired Marcus in equal measure. She activated a personal communicator, broadcasting on frequencies only the Sovereign could hear. "Ancient One," she said, her voice carrying across space to the entity that had destroyed her civilization. "I am Princess Lyra of the Zelani Confluence, last heir to the Throne of Stars. I claim right of personal combat." The response was immediate and overwhelming, a psychic pressure that drove most humans to their knees. But Lyra stood firm, her royal training allowing her to withstand mental forces that would have shattered lesser beings. "You were broken long ago," the Sovereign's voice echoed through every communication system in the fleet. "Your defiance is noted and dismissed." "Then come and finish what you started," Lyra challenged. "Face the last princess of the Confluence in single combat, as the ancient laws demand." The duel of minds, what followed, was a battle fought entirely in mental space, visible only as dancing lights between the opposing fleets. Lyra's consciousness met the Void Sovereign in a realm of pure thought, where civilizations could be built or destroyed with a single idea. Marcus and his crew could only watch as their friend and ally fought for the soul of the galaxy itself. Through their neural links with Lyra, they experienced fragments of the battle, visions of burning worlds, the screams of conquered populations, and beneath it all, the Sovereign's terrible certainty that existence itself was flawed and needed correction. but they also felt Lyra's response. Memories of laughter shared with human friends, the chaotic beauty of Marcus's salvage crew working together, the impossible courage of a species that fought wars while building homes for their children. Through her royal consciousness, humanity's greatest strength was magnified and projected across the stars. Humanity's answer. The mental duel reached its climax when the Sovereign attempted to show Lyra the futility of resistance by revealing the scope of its conquests. Thousands of species, millions of worlds, all brought into perfect harmony under its control. The weight of that cosmic genocide should have crushed any individual consciousness. Instead, Lyra laughed. It was a sound the Sovereign had never heard in all its eons of existence, genuine joy in the face of overwhelming despair. Through the neural link, every human in the fleet felt that laughter and added their own voices to it. The sound echoed through space like a weapon, carrying with it every silly joke, every moment of unexpected kindness, every act of stubborn defiance that made humanity uniquely itself. The Sovereign's mistake. The ancient entity, confused by this response, made a critical error. It tried to understand human laughter. In that moment of analysis, it opened its consciousness to patterns it had never encountered before. Chaos entered perfect order, unpredictability invaded absolute control, and for the first time in cosmic ages, the Void Sovereign experienced something it had thought impossible: doubt. That moment of uncertainty was all Marcus needed. "All ships, execute final protocol," he commanded. "Show them what humanity really means." The liberation. The human fleet didn't attack the Sovereign's ships. Instead, they broadcasted everything that made them human: music, art, arguments, love letters, children's laughter, old soldiers' tears. They transmitted the beautiful chaos of a species that had never learned to surrender completely to any force, no matter how powerful. The effect was devastating to the Sovereign's control network. Across its vast fleet, absorbed civilizations began to remember what they had lost. The perfect harmony that had held the entity's empire together for millennia began to crack as individual consciousness reasserted itself. Victory and new beginnings. The Void. Sovereign didn't die. Entities of its scope cannot simply cease to exist. But it retreated, pulling its damaged fleet back into the deep void between galaxies. For the first time in its existence, it had encountered something it could not understand, predict, or control: the magnificent chaos of humanity. In the aftermath, as rescue ships searched the debris for survivors from a dozen liberated species, Princess Lyra collapsed into Marcus's arms. The effort of challenging an entity older than most stars had nearly destroyed her, but she was smiling. "My people are finally at peace," she whispered. "They died free, and that's all any royal can ask for her subjects." Marcus held her gently, looking out at the stars where human ships now worked alongside vessels from species they had never seen before. "What now, Princess?" Lyra's golden eyes sparkled with familiar mischief. "Now. Now we teach the galaxy how to be beautifully, chaotically, impossibly human. And maybe," she added with a grin that would have scandalized the old Confluence nobility, "we go salvaging again. I hear there are some very interesting derelicts in the Sovereign's wake." Above them, the stars shone with new promise, and somewhere, in the distance, a universe began to learn what it meant to be free.